أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم إلى الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: وما هو على الغيب بضنين. صلوات. We've gathered tonight to commemorate the shahadat of our eighth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. And I would like to take this opportunity to talk about one of the important honors or privileges that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to His chosen ones from among the prophets and the messengers and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And that is about the phenomenon known as ilm al-ghayb. You know, the spatial knowledge that we do not acquire by normal means. When we talk about, the position of a Nabi or a Rasul or an Imam, we have to realize that this is a position which is chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is not a single verse in the Quran where you will ever see that the Ummah or any community in the past or in Islam was given the choice of choosing their leader. Especially if you look at the words Imam, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in the form of the singular Imam or A'imma. There is not a single verse where He says that people have a choice there. He uses the word Ja'ala, means He is the one who appointed. For example, in the case of Adam, the very first Nabi, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, talking to Malaika, he says, I am going to appoint a representative of mine on the earth. So the word Ja'al is there. When he talks to Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says, وَجَعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ imama. I appoint you as an Imam for the people. In a general sense, for example, we're referring to the Anbiya of Bani Israel. He uses the term وَجَعَلْنَا مِنُهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. From among them, we have appointed some leaders and Imams. So whether it is in the form of, Ja'il or Ja'alna or in all different forms of this word, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always kept in His control. Not even a Nabi or a Rasul has a right to make that decision on their own. Not even Rasulullah. If you look at the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam, means we have this hierarchy, and all Muslims agree on that there were 124,000 prophets. Not all of them on the same rank. Majority of them were Anbiya, but some of them were Rasul. They were the messengers also. And among the Rasul also there is a hierarchy. And Allah talks about it in the Quran actually. That I have فَضَّلْنَا بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. I have preferred or given a higher status to some of them over the others. So among Nabiyyin, among Rasul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also has created this sense of hierarchy. And at the top, all Muslims agree that there were 5 who are known as Ulul Azm. From Nuh alayhi salam to Ibrahim to Musa, Isa, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Among them, Ibrahim holds a very important position. Sometimes people call him Abul Anbiya. He's the father of the prophets. Many prophets came from his progeny. Look at his position. There is kind of a graduation process for him where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gives him different ranks as a Khalil and a Nabi and a Rasul. At the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I have, made you the Imam for the mankind. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it that way, Ibrahim alayhi salam really felt very honored with that. And a wish came up, very natural. وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. Allah, what about, my descendants? Will they get this position that I got? And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, responds in a conditional form. Where He says, لَا يَنَالَ عَهْدِي الظَّالِمِينَ. Those who will be ظالمين from among those descendants of yours, they will not able to attain it. He didn't say you have a right to appoint your sons if you want, or your descendants in that way. Allah still kept it to Himself. And this is where we have to realize that Ibrahim alayhi salam also, feels that it's not within my right to appoint anyone. I have to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get this honor of imamat among my descendants. Salawat. And so since He's the one who is going to appoint the leaders for the guidance of the people, He must then equip them with the tools of guidance. And one of the most important thing is the knowledge. So that a Nabi or a Imam doesn't need to go and learn from others to guide the people. He should come with that. And we have a very good example in Surah Maryam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the birth of Isa ibn Maryam, I'm just summarizing the event. This is just the preamble to what I'm going to talk about. So, Maryam, gave birth to Isa as a miracle. Isa doesn't have a father. And this was a miracle by itself, his birth. And when she comes back to her village or her town, maybe it was 5 days or 1 week, we don't know exactly, but not so many, days after the birth. When she comes back to her people, they were really surprised. And they said that, and this is ayat of Quran from Surah Maryam, where they said that, Maryam, your father was a very righteous man, and your mother was also very pious. What is this? Because we didn't expect you to have a child while you're not even married. And Maryam herself was worried about this issue, that what will happen to my reputation? What will people say? And of course, there is no ayat about it, but I'm just putting it in my words, as if Allah said to Maryam, don't worry, that's not your problem, it's my problem. I'll deal with that. If anyone raises this objection, just point to the baby. And this is where, as she said, I have fasted the fast of silence. I'm not going to talk. Pointed to the baby. And this is where the elders actually, in the words of the Quran, they say, وَكَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَهْدِ صَبِيًّا. How are we going to talk to a baby who is in the cradle? You take us as a joke here. And at that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the power to Isa ibn Maryam, the infant, to speak. And what does he say? He says, إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابِ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. He says, I am the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has given me a book and He has made me a Nabi. While he is still very, early days of his life there. The point that I would like you to reflect on it is the sequence of the words chosen. Number one, Isa says, I am Abdullah. I am the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a way, he's predicting a time will come when people will say, I am Ibnullah. I am rejecting it from day one. I am not Ibnullah, I am Abdullah. I am the son of, I am the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is itself the reflection of what we call ilm ghaib. And then when he says, Atani al-kitab, he has given me a book. Did really Isa come with a book when he was born? The word book is not really physical book here. We are talking about knowledge. Atani al-kitab means Allah has blessed me with knowledge. Isa, who is an infant, has been blessed with knowledge because Allah has equipped him to guide the society. And only after that he says, وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا, and Allah has appointed me or made me a Nabi. It means that the position of Nubuwwat depends on the knowledge which is given to them. You can't have this position of leadership, of Nubuwwat or Risalat or Imamat without the necessary, tool of knowledge to guide the people. Salawat Pranak Para. And so this is where we see that, the belief in the Shia Islam, that when it comes to the Nabi, our Prophet, as well as the Imams, they have been blessed with ilm al-ghaib. Now, these days, mashallah, people are discovering new Shiaism. They're saying, oh no, Imams were just very ordinary people. They were righteous scholars. These are the words they use. Ulama abrar. Nothing more than that. And this is where we have to realize that ilm al-ghaib is essentially in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It belongs to Him. And a Nabi or a Rasul or an Imam, when they have ilm al-ghaib, it is actually a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't have ilm al-ghaib from themselves. It is not zati. It is izafi. It's not that they are automatically born as an Imam, so the Imam ilm al-ghaib is there. Allah gives them ilm al-ghaib as a gift. Otherwise, ilm al-ghaib is essentially belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, Allah has no problem in giving this special knowledge to His chosen ones. Even when it comes to the Prophet himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Takwir, ayat number 24, وَمَا هُوَ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ بِضَنِينَ, that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam he's not niggardly or bakhil when it comes to sharing ghaib with people, whether it's in the form of the Quran or in the form of the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to him. So he's sharing that with the Imams who come afterwards. And so this is one of the essential, conditions that Shia unanimously actually believe, that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt have been blessed with what is known as ilm al-ghaib. Salawat Pranak Para. Keeping in mind that this is the majlis in memory of Imam Ridha alayhi salatu wasalam, I would like to share with you three or four examples of what does it mean, when we talk about ilm al-ghaib. And these are the examples that I have chosen from the sources which are considered to be reliable. One is a very interesting one, and this is where we see that when we talk about the Imams as Shuhada Dar al-Fana wa Shufa'a Dar al-Baqa, they are witnesses of our actions in this dunya, and they are intercessors for us in the akhirah. These are the words which are there in the Ziyarat Jamia from our 10th Imam about the Imams. And so this is one example where There is a person who was from Khurasan, traveling from Khurasan to Kerman. And along the way, a gang of robbers basically looted the caravan. And there was one person who was very wealthy, and they decided to actually take him also with themselves so that they can probably use him as a ransom chip or something with the tribe. But the way they treated him was very cruel. Apparently it was winter time, and basically they made him stand on the ice, and they would even time to time put ice, snow in his actually cubes of snow in his mouth, and tie his mouth. And this went on for a time that finally, one of the ladies from that tribe of the robbers felt, kind, and that this was not right. And so she basically helped him to run away from that place. So he was free, but the impact on his tongue and his mouth was such that he was no more able to speak normally. He says, I went back to Khurasan and I heard about the arrival of Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. And he got the news that Imam has come to Nishapur. So it means this is the time when Imam is coming from Medina, at the invitation of Ma'mun al-Rashid going to Marv. So he stayed for some time in the city of Nishapur. He says, I was sleeping that night and I saw in dream that somebody is saying that the son of the Prophet, referring to Imam Rida alayhi salam, has come to Khurasan, and therefore ask him for the cure of the problem that you have in your tongue. And he will tell you what is the cure for it. He says that in dream now I see as if I'm going to him, to Imam Rida. And Imam basically, I complained to him about what has happened to me. And Imam basically gave me a solution, the treatment for that. And he said, فَقَالَ لِي, in dream, Imam Rida alayhi salam is telling him that take khuz min al-kammun, cumin in English, or I think in Gujarati Urdu we say zira. Take zira, was sa'tar, thyme, wal milh, and some salt, and then mix it all together, and put it in your mouth 2 or 3 times, and you will be okay. He says, when I got up from my sleep, he says, I was thinking, what do I do with it? He says, maybe I should go to Nishapur and see the Imam, that I've seen him in dream. He goes to Nishapur and he was told that Imam has already left Nishapur. He is now going to, his next stop would be a place known as Ribat Sa'ad. So he says, I'll go there. He goes there and he met the Imam, and this is where he says to the Imam, this is what happened to me, and I have difficulty now in speaking normally because of the torture that they forced me to go through. Imam now responds to him. This is where I would like you to reflect. He already has seen the Imam in the dream. Imam has already given him the cure. Now he is going to Imam in real life and asking him, and what does the Imam say? Alam u'allimuka? Have I not already told you what is the cure? The point is that the Imam knows what you saw in the dream. we have difficulty in believing that he can be witness of our actions. This shows that he knows what you see in the dream. He said, didn't I already tell you what to do? فَاذْهَبْ فَاسْتَعْمِلْ مَا وَصَفْتُهُ لَكَ فِي مَنَامِكَ. Go and do what I told you in the dream. And this is where, he basically tells the Imam, just to reassure myself, can you please repeat that? And Imam, being kind, says, repeated it for him. And this is where he goes and uses the method that Imam had shown for relieving himself of that problem, and he was, alhamdulillah, cured. And this is where we come to realize that, it is in the dream as that Imam communicated with him, and he knows that this person has seen me in the dream. Salawat para. Another example of a very different kind is from Rayyan as-Salt, a very famous companion of the Imam. He says, when I planned to go to Iraq, I went to see the Imam. Probably this is in Medina. And I went to see the Imam to say, Khuda Hafiz, before I go to Iraq. And he says, while I'm going to the Imam, I said to myself that when I see the Imam, I will ask him to gift me one of his used shirts, which I would like to use as my coffin, as a shroud. When I die, I would like myself to be shrouded in that, and to give me some money, darahim, by which I can make, rings for my daughters. But he says, when I went to the Imam, and after the normal conversation that I had, and then the time came to depart and say Khuda Hafiz to the Imam, he said, I was so much overcome with the grief of, parting from the Imam, that I forgot about my own wish. So I said Khuda Hafiz and started moving out. He says, فَلَمَّا خَرَجْتُ مِنْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. When I was moving away from him, he called me, Ya Rayyan, irja'. Or Rayyan, come back. And then Imam says, أَمَا تُحِبُّ أَنْ أَدْفَعَ إِلَيْكَ قَمِيصًا مِنْ ثِيَابِ جَسَدِي تُكَفَّنُ فِيهِ إِذَا فُنِيَ أَجَلُكَ. He says, don't you want a shirt from me? That will be used as a coffin for you when you passed away. And Imam, removed the pillow beside him, and he took out his shirt and gave it to him. And also gave him a bag of the dirhams, and he says, go and make there are about 30 dirhams in there, and this would be good enough to make rings for your daughters. So the person had just the intention, goes to the Imam, forgot to even mention about it, but the Imam knows what is in his heart and mind. And when there is good connection between the follower and the Imam himself takes that extra step. So we have to have that belief when we talk about tawassul with the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. When we talk about tawassul with the Imam of our time, it's not just the issue of reciting in the book. If we have that strong connection, the Imam will come to our help indeed. Salawat. Another example of a different, completely different scenario, and this is about guidance to the right path. There was a person by the name of Abdullah bin al-Mughira. Abdullah bin al-Mughira, he himself narrates the story. He says, I was Waqifi. Waqifi was a group which separated from Imam Rida alayhi salam among the Shias. Because they believed in 7th Imam, Imam Musa al-Kazim alayhi salam. But after that, there was a small group who actually separated from the mainstream Shias. They didn't believe in Imam Rida alayhi salam. And they are known as Waqifa, means those who stopped at the seventh Imam. And the origin of this group, and this group didn't really last. I think after next generation, they were all either converted or they went different ways. They became Shia mainstream. The reason why this group started, and this is a side issue, but I thought maybe it's important to know about it. There were two wakala of the Imam. Means Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, during his time, had a network of representatives and agents in different parts of the Muslim world at that time. And they were also the agents of receiving religious dues on the behalf of the Imam. When the seventh Imam passed away, there were two of them whom Imam Rida alayhi salam now sends a letter to say that you have an amanat, a trust from my father's time, and that belongs to me now. And I would like you to convey that. This is where shaitan comes in. And the greeds came in, and they said, well, Imam Musa Kazim is not dead. He has gone into ghaibat. So we don't believe in you to be the Imam. And that is the group that was the person, there were two of them, who actually started this whole business of saying that, Imam Musa Kazim is not dead. He is in the state of ghaibat. So Imam Rida alayhi salam is not the rightful Imam. And it was just because of the greed of the money that they had accumulated in the name of Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, had not yet given to him, but his shahadat happened. So they are known as Waqifa, but this group didn't really continue, as I said, more than a generation. And so Abdullah bin al-Mughira was a Waqifi Shia, believed till about the seventh Imam. The point I would like to mention here is that, was Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam an Imam and a Masoom? Huh? Yes. He had appointed certain people as his wakil. Almost 99% of them were fine. Even these fellows, when he was alive, they were fine. But after the shahadat of the Imam, their intentions, shaitan, overcame them. So if you have a situation where a wakil appointed by a Masoom Imam could betray the Imam, will you then go and accuse the Imam or the system of Imamat or the system of Wikalat? Maraj Taqleed are not Masoom. They, mashallah, appoint, hundreds of wakala all over the world. Not necessarily, everybody would be on that level. There might be some bad apples in that crate. Just because one person has done wrong, or of 2, 3 examples, then you say, this marjayat is wrong and wikalat is wrong. No. This is where you have to learn. They were the wakala appointed by a Masoom Imam. But they were misguided at the end. So these things happen. We have to keep our own eyes open. Be vigilant about, the wakil that you see. Find somebody who is trustworthy. Don't attack the institution because of the bad apple in that system. Salawat. So this person, Abdullah bin al-Mughira, was Waqifi, but he knew that, he wasn't sure about whether I'm following the right path or not. So he says, I went for Hajj. And in Hajj, I was kind of, in my mind, uncertain, what is my situation? He says, In Hajj, in Masjid al-Haram, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma qad alimta talibati wa iradati. Wa Allah, you know what I want. You know what is my intention. Farshidni ila khayr al-adyan. So guide me to the best of religion. What is the right path? And he says, somehow, without even thinking about it, a thought came to my mind, maybe I should go and visit Ali ibn Musa Rida. He had not planned, but this is the thought came to him after he did the dua. When he goes to Medina then, from Mecca, and he went to the Imam, he says to the servant there, قُلْ لِمَوْلَاكَ رَجُلٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْإِرَاقِ بِالْبَابِ. That this is a visitor coming from the Iraqis who is at your door. He says that before even this servant goes inside, I heard the Imam saying, "Udkhul ya Abdullah bin al-Mughira." Imam had not seen me. And he says, "Oh Abdullah bin Mughira, come." فَدَخَلْتُ فَلَمَّا نَظَرَ إِلَيَّ قَالَ. When I went in, the very first statement he says to me when he saw me, قَدْ عَجَابَ اللَّهَ دَعْوَتَكَ وَحَدَاكَ لِدِينِهِ. Allah has accepted your plea and your dua, and He has guided you to His true religion. Now that you come here, this is a response of the dua that you made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where Abdullah bin Mughira was really, shocked. And he realized that, this is the Imam, and he says, "Ashhadu annaka hujjatullah wa aminullah ala khalqihi." Salawat. One more example before I move towards the conclusion, inshallah. And this is from all what I mentioned now, these were all from our own Shia sources. The fourth one is actually from a Sunni source. There's a famous alim in the Sunni world a few centuries ago by the name of Ibn Hajar al-Makki. And he wrote a book, a polemical work against Shias. And the title he gave to the book was As-Sawa'iq al-Muhriqa. As-Sawa'iq al-Muhriqa means burning thunder. And this was a book he wrote for the Shias to burn them. So it was an anti-Shia polemical work he had. The problem he had is that he attacked Shias, he attacked the Shia madhab, but he had a problem there. He had to be very careful in not insulting the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. He wanted to separate. He says, I'm not against the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. I love them. They are good and this and that. He doesn't believe in them as an Imam. But Ahlul Bayt are good, but the Shias are bad. And his whole intention is to write this big book against the Shias and their beliefs. So as a preamble to, this thought that people should not accuse me of bad-mouthing the Imams or saying bad things about them and negative things, he actually wrote a whole section about the qualities of the 12 Imams of Shia Ithna Ashari. Each one of them. And in this section on Imam Rida alayhi salam, he has this story. And this is a story of a person by the name of Abu Habib. Salawat prandik para. Abu Habib was in Nishapur. And I mentioned earlier that Imam in his journey from Medina to Marv had stopped for a few days there in Nishapur. He says, in the dream I saw that the Prophet of Islam has come to our city of Nishapur, and there was a special place where the caravan from Hajj, whenever they would come back, the caravan would stop in that one area. It was kind of, Baytul Hujjaj, if I may call it. I think I've seen in Delhi and Bombay also they have, Hajj house. So all these travelers for Hajj would gather there in departure and even coming back. Then they would disperse to their own areas or their other cities. And so it seems this was an area in Nishapur used by the Hajj caravans when they would go or return back to the city. He says, I saw there that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the dream that the Prophet had come into that place and people were going in large numbers to see him. He says, even I went there. And I saw that the Prophet had a tray of khurma, dates, in front of him, which were khurma from Medina. And people were going and saying salam and greeting him. And I also got the opportunity, went close. And Imam picked up a handful of khurma. There were 18 of them. And not the Imam, the Prophet. In the dream, this is what he saw. He says, when I woke up, I took that as a good omen for me that, I still have 18 years to live. In the dream that he got 18 khurma for dates from Rasulullah. He says about 20 days after that, Imam Ali ibn Musa alayhi salam came to Nishapur. And again, people in large number would go to see him. And he was actually meeting people in the same place where the Hajj caravan would stop. And I went and I was surprised that the same scenery that I seen in the dream, that Rasulullah was sitting, I saw exactly in the same location Ali ibn Musa was sitting. And there was a tray in front of him with the khurma, the dates from Medina. And he says, I went close and I don't have the khurma here. Huh? Okay, sorry. Salawat par dekh. So he goes to the Imam and did salam, and Imam called him close and then, picked up handful of khurma and gave it to him. He counted them. And there were exactly 18 dates. He turns to the Imam and he says, Zidni, give me more, Imam. And Imam says to him, لو زادك رسول الله لزدناك. If Rasulullah had given more in the dream to you, we would have given more to you. Salawat. Somebody else saw the dream. And they saw Rasulullah giving khurma to him. Imam is telling him, I know about your dream. And if my grandfather Rasulullah had given you more than this, I would have given more to you. Salawat. You see, the opponents and the enemy could do whatever was in their power to take the political, position from them, to even deprive them of their wealth. But what they couldn't touch was this gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it came to the akhlaq of the Imam, the ilm of the Imam, and this is where they faced total defeat. And that's where actually they come and then use the same method that we see in history of planning to eliminate the Imams of their own time. Imam Rizvi alayhi salam के सिलसिले में चूँकि शहादत की मजलिस है, ये उन्वान जो हमने अक्सर इन मजालिस में कहा है कि खुदावंद आलम ने दो चीज़ें दी हैं फजीलत के तौर पे, जो दुश्मन जो है सब कुछ करने के बाद भी ہمارے ائمہ سے لوٹ نہیں سکے. حکومت لے لی، دولت چھین لی، فدق پہ قبضہ کر لیا، خمس کو ایک لحاظ سے ایلیمنٹ کر دیا، لیکن جو اخلاق کی بات ہے جو خداوند عالم نے انہیں عطا کیا ہے، اخلاقی فضیلت، اس کو یہ ٹچ نہیں کر سکتے ہیں. کوئی بھی ہے آپ کے اخلاق کو چرا نہیں سکتا ہے، آپ کے مال کو چرا سکتا ہے. اور اسی طرح سے اگر آپ دیکھیں کہ جہاں علم کی بات آتی ہے، علم جو ہے وہ ودیت ہے، وہ ہدیہ ہے، وہ گفٹ ہے خداوند عالم کا، کہ جو کوئی آپ سے چرا نہیں سکتا ہے. اس لیے امیر المومنین بھی کمیل سے یہی کہتے ہیں، یاد رکھو کہ مال کی حفاظت تجھے کرنی پڑے گی، لیکن علم جو ہے تمہاری حفاظت کرے گا. اس لیے کہ علم جو ہے وہ کوئی آپ سے لے نہیں سکتا ہے. اور انہی مراحل میں آپ دیکھیں کہ مامون الرشید نے بھی پلاننگ کی تھی، کسی نہ کسی طریقے سے امام کو مرو بلوایا، اور ایک پلان تھا اس کا. تفصیلی گفتگو میں ہم نہیں جا سکتے ہیں جو جانشین بنایا، کیوں بنایا تھا، لیکن امام نے اس کے تمام پلان کو جو ہے وہ ایک لحاظ سے خنثی کر دیا، اس کو کوئی فائدہ ہوا نہیں. اور اب یہ جا رہا تھا بغداد کی طرف، اور بادشاہوں کا سفر بھی مہینوں کا ہوتا ہے، تو مرو سے خراسان ابھی رکے تھے یہ لوگ، جہاں اس نے ارادہ کیا کہ امام کو زہر دیا جائے. اب یہ ہم نے علم غیب کی جو بات کی ہے آپ کے سامنے، اس میں ایک بات واضح کرنا ضروری ہے کہ خدا نے یہ فضیلت دی ہے، معجزے کی طاقت بھی ہے، ولایت تکوینی بھی ہے، علم غیب بھی ہے، لیکن ایک لحاظ سے اگر ہم آسان کرنے کے لیے سمجھا رہے ہیں کہ لیکن یہ ذوات مقدسہ اس علم کو، اس پاور کو، اس ولایت کو اپنی ذات کے لیے استعمال نہیں کرتے. علم غیب کا استعمال ہوگا لوگوں کے ہدایت کے لیے، معجزے کا استعمال ہوگا لوگوں کے ہدایت کے لیے، ولایت تکوینی کا استعمال ہوگا لوگوں کی ہدایت کے لیے، اپنی ذات کے لیے نہیں. اس لیے اکثر لوگ کہتے ہیں اگر علم غیب جانتے تھے تو انگور کیوں کھا لیا. وہ کبھی بھی علم غیب کی بنیاد پر جو نیچرل کوز اینڈ ایفیکٹ کا جو پروسیس ہے اس میں وہ مخل نہیں ہوں گے. لوگوں کی ہدایت کے لیے وہ الگ بات ہے. اور اسی بنیاد پر جب مامون الرشید نے ایک بار دعوت دی کہ ہم چاہتے ہیں کہ آج کا کھانا جو ہے آپ ہمارے ساتھ کھائیں، امام تنہا تھے، گھر والا کوئی ساتھ نہیں تھا. امام کے خادم تھے جن کا نام تھا یاسر. امام جب گئے ہیں تو یاسر سے کہتے ہیں کہ دیکھو، جب ہم مامون الرشید کے گھر سے نکلیں، اگر ہماری ابا ہمارے شولڈر پہ ہو تو سمجھنا کہ ہم صحیح سالم ہیں، لیکن اگر اس ابا کو ہم نے اپنے سر کے اوپر رکھ لیا ہو تو سمجھنا کہ مجھے زہر دیا جا چکا ہے، تو مجھ سے کلام مت کرنا، میرے ساتھ ساتھ چلنا، اور جس کمرے میں ہم رہتے ہیں وہاں ہمیں جا کے پہنچا دینا، دروازے کو بند کر دینا. یاسر کی روایت ہے کہ ہم لوگ گئے مامون الرشید کے گھر، اور وہاں اس نے در حقیقت انگور میں زہر ملوایا تھا. اصرار کیا امام سے کہ بہت اچھے انگور ہیں، آپ ضرور کھائیے. انکار کیا امام نے، لیکن آخر میں اصرار جب بڑھا ہے تو انکار نہیں کر سکے. لیکن کھانے کے بعد فوراً ہی احساس ہو گیا امام کو. مامون الرشید سے کہتے بھی ہیں کہ تمہارا جو مقصد تھا اس میں تم کامیاب ہو چکے ہو. امام اٹھ جاتے ہیں اور باہر نکلتے ہیں، لیکن باہر نکلنے سے پہلے اپنے ابا کو جو ہے سر کے اوپر رکھ لیتے ہیں. یاسر نے جو منظر دیکھا ہے وہ سمجھ گیا ہے کہ میرے مولا جو ہیں وہ مسموم ہو چکے ہیں. خاموشی کے ساتھ امام کے گھر تک گئے، اور ایک کمرے میں جہاں رہتے تھے امام اس میں گئے، آرام کیا، دروازے کو بند کر دیا. امام رضا علیہ السلام اسی کرب اور اذیت کی حالت میں رہے. یہ جو عنوان ہم زیارت میں پڑھتے ہیں، یا غریب الغرباء، یہ غریب کا عنوان ہے، غریب وطن، جو اپنے گھر سے دور ہے، اپنے گھر والوں سے دور ہے، اپنے خاندان سے دور ہے، اور وہاں اسے جب مصیبت وارد ہوتی ہے تو یقیناً اس معاملے میں امام رضا علیہ السلام صحیح معنوں میں غریب الغربا تھے، بہت دور تھے مدینہ سے، اپنے خاندان والوں سے بہت دور تھے، اور اسی حالت میں امام کی وفات واقع ہوتی ہے اس زہر کی وجہ سے۔ معجزے کی بنیاد پر امام محمد تقی علیہ السلام مدینہ سے آتے ہیں، امام کو غسل دیتے ہیں، اور اسی کمرے میں امام کے نماز جنازہ پڑھتے ہیں، اس لیے کہ ہم لوگ کا عقیدہ ہے کہ معصوم کا جنازہ معصوم ہی پڑھا سکتا ہے۔ آج ہم لوگ جمع ہوئے ہیں امام محمد تقی علیہ السلام کی خدمت میں پرسہ دینے کے لیے۔ بس ایک جملہ ہم امام سے کہنا چاہیں گے، امام مدینے کے فاصلے کو اور خراسان کے فاصلے کو دیکھیں، بہت دور ہے فاصلہ، اسی لیے ہم امام رضا علیہ السلام کو غریب الغربا کہتے ہیں۔ لیکن مولا پھر بھی حالات اس قابل تھے کہ آپ معجزے کی بنیاد پر آ سکے۔ بابا کو آپ نے غسل دیا، کفن دیا، اور نماز جنازہ اندر پڑھی ہے۔ بعد میں پبلکلی جو جنازہ ہوا ہے احترام کے ساتھ، وہ الگ بات ہے۔ بس آپ کی خدمت میں مولا تسلی کے طور پہ ہم چاہیں گے کہ آپ اس بیٹے کو یاد کریں، مدینہ کجا توس کجا، فاصلہ کتنا تھا، لیکن آپ پہنچ سکے اپنے بابا کے بالین پہ۔ لیکن امام سجاد کے بارے میں مولا یاد کرے کہ آپ جو حضرات زیارت کے لیے گئے ہیں، خیمہ گاہ اور مقتل حسین کا فاصلہ زیادہ نہیں ہے، لیکن امام سجاد جو ہے آخر وقت میں اپنے بابا کے بالین پہ نہیں پہنچ سکے، بلکہ یہ پھوپھی تھی جو آ کے بیدار کرتی ہے کہ بیٹا دیکھو کیا آواز آ رہی ہے آسمان سے۔ جب کہا ہے امام سجاد نے کہ پھوپھی خیمے کے پردے کو کھولا جائے، جب کھولا گیا ہے تب امام دیکھتے ہیں ایک نیزہ بلند ہوا، حسین کا سر نظر آیا، اور بیٹے نے کہا السلام علیک یا ابا عبداللہ، السلام علیک یا ابتا۔ جب روانہ بھی ہوئے ہیں کربلا سے، بابا کو بیگ اور کفن چھوڑ کے گئے ہیں، یہ بہت بڑا صدمہ تھا امام سجاد کے لیے۔ ہاں معجزے کے طور پہ آئے ہیں دفن کرنے کے لیے، نماز بھی ادا کی ہے، لیکن یہ 3 دن کے بعد کی بات ہے، جبکہ امام محمد تقی آپ بہت ہی خوش نصیب تھے کہ اسی دن آپ اپنے بابا کے بالین اور سراب پہ پہنچ سکے۔ لعنۃ اللہ علی القوم الظالمین، سیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون۔ خداوند اس قلبات قبول فرما، ہمارے گناہ کو بخش دے، ہمارے توفیقات میں اضافہ فرما، امام کے ظہور میں تاجر فرما۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔